In the spirit of author David Feldman, I've posted some imponderables, difficult and challenging questions like, are horses aware of their own poop? And what do you call a better-than-perfect chess game? Here's a third installment, Science and Nature Edition. Let's go. Question number 1. If you're an Anglophile like me, you know the traditional symbol of the kings of England is the lions of England. So, were there ever lions in England? The extinct European lion was still living at the time of the ancient Greeks, and Greek writers recorded the locations where lions could still be found in their time, which grew fewer and fewer over the centuries. The range of the lion in Western Europe, however, is more of a mystery, since there was no writing system there. The prehistoric cave lion did live in England, where it coexisted with early humans. However, the lion standard of England was brought with them from mainland Europe during the Norman conquest, and has long been a symbol of Belgium, much like the dragon standard was brought over by the Saxons before them against the red dragon of Wales. Number 2. Did the artificial ficus trees you see in department stores used to be real ones? Something that's different about retail offices today than the way they were about 10 years ago is when my office transitioned from being a franchise to a corporate office, I remember counting 11 artificial ficus trees in the lobby that were removed, a veritable forest compared to the way offices are today, and an interesting example of deforestation. The reason the artificial trees in department stores are ficus and not some other kind of tree is at one time they were real ones. Ficus is a tree native to Asia that was chosen for indoor spaces because it almost never drops its leaves. If you look closely, though, a lot of artificial trees were real ones at one time. Now, whether they were ficus trees can be hard to say. Manufacturers use oak and other attractive woods that are available for crafts. However, many years ago when I worked at a greenhouse, I reported a ficus tree with a suspicious knot on one side. The knot was cut off, the tree was thrown away so it wouldn't contaminate other trees, and would have made a good walking stick or other uses for discarded wood. Number 3. During the Ice Age, when much of the world was covered in ice sheets, did woolly mammoths live on those ice sheets? When I was a child and I saw illustrations of woolly mammoths crossing a snowy wasteland, I knew much of the world was covered in ice and assumed those mammoths were pictured on that ice. It was a cold time. This is why it's called the Ice Age. In reality, mammoths were grazing animals that lived in grasslands like modern elephants, rearing their young in the spring, a habitat that produced more biomass than the African savanna does today. Nothing lives on a glacier except algae and a few transitional organisms like ice worms. The glaciers that give the Ice Age its name push back all life, mammoths included, along with early humans. Number 4. Is there such a thing as negative moisture? The official scientific answer is no. Something can't be more dry than 0% humidity. I have some doubts about this, however. Mars had its own ice age at one time when it was colder than it is now, which is how boulders came to be strewn all over the landscape. I was surprised to find this out because temperatures on Mars are always well below zero. You would think that ice would do nothing. In fact, one would think it would have to warm up for ice flows to cover the planet. In the outer solar system, it's too cold for water to crystallize. Ice is just another form of rock. So there are changes that take place well below zero. Glaciers do flow, they're viscous, If the temperature dropped low enough, they would just crumble into dust. So what would a day with less than zero humidity be like? Moisture would be sucked out of things. I've never experienced a nosebleed due to dry weather, so that would be drier than a 0 day. Plants would wither, bodies of water would dry up. All things that could potentially be caused by a vacuum, where it appears that moisture is less than 0 because it's being taken to some other place at greater speed, such as the upper levels of the atmosphere dipping down and sweeping the Earth until it's exposed to space. Number 5. When your phone or internet line is disconnected, is it actually still connected? You may have noticed that when your cell phone runs out of minutes, it will still allow you to dial 911 or the customer service hotline to purchase more minutes, revealing the phone is actually working fine. Likewise, when your internet has been turned off, you may have noticed some things still work. When you try to go to Google, there is still a background and residual text frames from the last time you were there. In my previous video, when I asked the question, can you prevent your internet from being disconnected by installing a hard line, I mentioned that every internet device contains a governor, something it doesn't need from an engineering perspective, without which the device would have free internet all the time. Our personal computers aren't very efficient users of the internet. In theory, a computer could function on just 1% internet connection. Since I'm an emergency responder, I could potentially call 911 and have them transfer my calls and end up using my cell phone for free. As far as how to access the internet you're accessing when all you have is what's in your memory cache, I don't know. Maybe a programmer can tell me what the connection behind the connection is called and what you can do with it. Thanks for watching. Leave your comments below.